Hello and welcome to the first episode of Wrestling Wednesdays. I'm your host, Martin Watchorn, director of This Is Wrestling Film. Wrestling Wednesdays are going to be about bringing engaging stories and insight from professional wrestlers and taking a look at what's going on across the industry. Kicking off, I've got an interview with British wrestler Sheikh El Sham, who's best known for his work with Preston City Wrestling. I had the pleasure of chatting with the Sheikh towards the end of last year, and he shared his thoughts on match storytelling, engaging and interacting with fans, and also his overall love of wrestling. I hope you enjoy it. So welcome, Sheikh El Sham. Thank you very much for agreeing to give us an interview this week on This Is Wrestling Film's Wrestling Wednesdays. Really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man. You got a lot on. So I just wanted to obviously welcome you to the show, and I hope all's well with you.
Thanks for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
Cool. Obviously, I had the pleasure of meeting you. It must be a couple of years ago now, when I attended a training seminar in Preston, and you kindly were working in the ring for us while we were rookie in our attempts at commentary and management and other things. In terms of, obviously, you interact brilliantly with crowds, and you could see that day when you gave your time to us. How much have you missed not being in front of a crowd during this very weird year that we're having?
It's almost been it has been sort of the year of disappearance, you could call it, couldn't you, really? The last time I was in the middle of the ring and performing and interacting with all the fans that we have was March, which just seems like an eternity ago now. And it has massive effects because that's where people's adrenaline, and that's where the addiction comes from. People are addicted to something, and once you walk through that curtain for the very first time, and you feel the atmosphere and the energy that you get from the people, it sticks with you, it stays with you, and you do become addicted to it. And whether they are, in my case, booze, you just feed off them more than anything. And it's got to a stage, Martin, where I'm actually craving that again, just to be in front of there, and whether that's pulling a face at someone or looking at them in a disgustful manner just to get some sort of reaction. It is something I'm genuinely missing a lot.
How have you kept yourself going during this year?
I'll be honest with you, Martin. It was very, very difficult. I remember initially the first 4 weeks, it was horrendous. I've been keeping in shape since the age of 12. I've always been a keen sportsman. I played football at quite a high level for many, many years. And I think that's kind of where it's grown from there. Just even if it was going out for runs and cross country and things like that. I didn't hit the weights though till I was probably about, believe it or not, 24, 25. So I didn't hit any sort of weights because I wanted to stay quite small and nimble just for football purposes. And the first 4 weeks of lockdown was terrible because I remember I wasn't doing anything, and I was like, oh, as soon as these 4 weeks are over, we can get back in the gym and we can do anything. And I just remember being really angry, really frustrated, and not knowing where all this anger was coming from. And then realizing it's because you've not worked out, it's because you've not gone and shifted all these weights and thrown dumbbells about, and that's possibly why you're so angry. After 4 weeks, I decided that I couldn't wait any longer. So I tracked down some gym equipment, which, as you can imagine, was overpriced at the time. So I ended up spending around about 300 to 400 pounds on gym equipment. And then obviously we ended up in lockdown a lot longer than what was expected. And very, very quickly it became, I found myself in a position where I needed to progress more. So the weights weren't enough that I had. again, went back online. I could see the prices had gone even higher than they were last time. So I contacted a friend who was in the building, bricklaying, cement business, and he created me some concrete plates, which did me really good actually. And it just I stuck to a sort of a routine that I would if I was at the gym, and just hammered it out for the sake of the light at the end of the tunnel more than anything. It's therapy for myself when it comes to hitting the weights and any sort of cardio. Um, it's always been an escape for me as well.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges everyone's faced, haven't they? Is finding that, keeping to a routine and keeping active when things are taken away from them. But I'm pleased you managed to get those custom made
Absolutely, yeah.
chic level brick weights. I like that. That's very
I
impressive.
think I'm sure I'll be contacting him again in the next few weeks. So
Well, it's worked a treat because obviously, like I say, you've kept yourself in great shape during the
thank you.
whole of lockdown, and I'm really excited. Obviously, when you get back into the ring, come up and see you again performing. Fan interaction's huge with your matches. I mean, I could tell when I was there. You've got a great way about working up a crowd almost off the cuff when you don't know what they're going to say to you or how they're going to react, but you're able to respond accordingly. How important is fan interaction in terms of your development in wrestling? At what point do you sort of really able? Is that obviously training aside? Is that part of the game that you learn?
Um, I'll be honest with you. It's something that's not taught as often enough in training schools. Um, you and again, I'm not going to name any names today, but you can have great wrestlers. You can have fantastic wrestlers who are technically gifted, who are brilliant, or are really great at high flying, or who can kick you really hard in the head. Do you know what I mean? But where they would lack is the promo side of stuff, and the interaction with the crowds. Now, for me, what mattered to me was how to get these people involved, or how to get the fans involved in your match. Because you have to remember, when even being a child, you'd go to a show, whether that was a pantomime at school or your family, and soon as there was an interaction from the theatre or the actors on stage, that would make you as a person feel so much more invested, um, and it make you feel precious. And again, if you look at some of the greats in the wrestling business, they are the ones that make an effort with the people. And it could even be just a quick stare, or blaming that poor person who's sat at the front seat that their favourite good guy is taking a beating from the heel. It's fantastic. And again, for me, it's the character itself. When I was thinking about the character, um, and I thought, there's two ways where the Sheikh can go. There's either he ignores absolutely everyone and does his business, or he can actually showboat about it and look down upon people and think, "Do you know what? Right, you've paid to see me, and I'm going to give you a show and I'm going to enjoy it. But this is the closest you're ever going to get to the Sheikh." So I've always kind of taken it down that direction. Um, and it's fantastic. And for me, I think I excelled at this when I worked a lot on the what are known as sort of the camp shows, the holiday camp style shows, because you have families that attend them, Martin, who have never really watched wrestling, so it's your opportunity to pull them in. And what better way to do it? Because they're not gonna understand, what a 450 splashes, or do you know what I mean? What a
Yeah.
hurricane rana may be. But they're gonna understand if you're being a complete idiot with them, or if you're getting on their nerves, they're gonna carry on. Do you know what I mean? So that's sort of where it came from me, and the Sheikh would never say this, but the people mean so much in the business. Um, And for me, if I can send, some of them young people, some of them kids or them fans home thinking that actually the Sheikh gave us some grief today. Or we're glad the Sheikh got what he deserved because he was bullying us or he was picking on us. That's great for me. If I can get the whole or the room full of people to boo because I've done something, that's my job. That's my job done. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, and you do it very well. As I say, that's
thank
very
you.
joy. I've spent a bit of time watching quite a lot of your PCW stuff that they put out on YouTube, including a brilliant storyline with Stephen Fludder to do with ownership of the company.
That was difficult, yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine it was a bit full on. In terms of it seems to me that was a really long distance storyline that was building up over a period of time with a great ending. For you, obviously you work, obviously like you say, we work with fans and you work with crowds, but how important is match storytelling to you, and how difficult is it for you to build match storytelling if you're working on a show as a one-off as opposed to maybe a longer storyline, something like that with an owner of a company?
That's honestly my that's just a brilliant question. Because it, it's one of the things that it's so difficult to work out. And I still class myself as very green. I'm fortunate to have worked with some of the people that I've worked with in order to be wrestling at the level that I am actually. And there's a lot of people to thank because of that. Joey Hayes being one of them. Um, and that's where I kind of picked up a lot of storytelling. I think storytelling for me is important because that's again going back to the sort of fans. That's what's going to matter. You could go in there with someone. It's like, let's have a look at this. You're more interested in a boxing match or in a UFC match if there's some history behind it,
Mm-hmm.
or if there's, the so the press conference that they have before it, and you see tensions arising, and you see a little bit of back and forth, and you think, actually, I'm quite interested in this. This is why people like Conor McGregor was so, highly loved because he'd trash mouth people, and I think, actually, let's see if he actually does it in the ring. And again with myself, and I think every time you're in that ring, for me, I see that ring as our stage. As a wrestler, that's a stage. You're up on that stage to showcase not only your ability or as an athlete or as a wrestler, but to see if you can get them people to invest in what's going on. And for me, each sort of match should be like an episode to a whole series. Um, and every match has a place on the series, if that makes sense. Um, and as much as you can invest and you can put in to each match, whether it's just a one-off or whether it's leading up to a storyline, then people are going to remember you. Um, and it's difficult to see nowadays where, and I'm sure we'll probably go on to this, but British wrestling, it's changed a little bit where you just have people in the ring and they're just trying to knock each other's heads off, but there's no particular reason behind why they're doing it. But I'm sort of a big believer in everything you should do for a reason. There's times in matches where I've done stuff purely because I know it's going to wind the people up. So I'd beat down the pace, the good guy, even more because I know it's winding them up. Or they want me to hit a move again, and I purposely won't hit it because I know that's what they want to see. I'm not going to give it to them, So that's. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah.
So.
You're so evil, aren't you? They give
Well,
what they want, It's terrible.
Mine, somebody has to be. Somebody has to be. But Boris Johnson can't take all the heat by himself. You know what I mean? So
He's over though. What can you do?
exactly.
That's brilliant. I mean, that's the thing for me. I mean, what I love. I'm very lucky that I've been to quite a lot of shows throughout the UK, and a lot of it. I watch a lot of independent wrestling, so I follow it on a regular basis. But like you say, there are fans that might only go to one particular company or might not see it much. They go to a holiday camp, etc. So it's difficult to get that engagement with a match and feel passionate about it if you don't think there's something on the line or you've got some favoritism to someone. So that's why I find it fascinating when I find out what's the psychology behind what you're doing. And And like you hit it nail on the head there with you'll do a certain move to wind up a crowd, and it doesn't matter what it is as the story. That's going to work on. So that's great to hear. Obviously, like you mentioned, that you're part of big storylines in PCW. Is that sort of your favourite so far? The accumulation in 2019 with the badass Billy Gunn.
It was, like I said, that was an experience. I mean, like I said, I remember growing up and watching Mr. Billy Gunn perform, and I never ever thought I'd be taking his famouser in a match. You know what I mean? It's definitely something to go down with. It was fun. It was brilliant enough that he came to the Sheikh's palace and had a curry with the Sheikh as well. You know what I mean? That was big enough. But then a year down the line, he's giving me a famouser, which was like, whoa, took a turn quite quickly. I love doing the storyline stuff purely because I was able to expand and explore the Sheikh as a character. Because what would the Sheikh do in specific scenarios? I got to showcase that. As well, there was a lot of responsibility thrown on me in the last year of PCW. I was actually taken back by it because I was by the actual writer. I was actually given the main heel role, and you're never ready. I'll be honest with you, Martin. It's one of those situations where you're actually never ready for that. Even when it came to sort of the sort of leader of the buyout kind of stuff, and I was like, hang on a minute. There's guys in the faction who've been wrestling a lot longer than I have. There's guys in the faction that helped bring me up. So Mr. Danny Hope being one of them, who is absolutely fantastic. And I remember he supported me all the way through that. And I was like, I don't know if I'm like ready to be like the leader or the ruler of the buyout. And he's like, look, the promoter and the writer see something in you. They wouldn't have given you this opportunity. Just go with it. Because there's a balance, Martin, where yes, once I walk through that curtain, I'm the Sheikh in the middle of the ring, but I actually I love to learn as much as I can behind the scenes and backstage in the locker rooms. Ears will be open, mouth will be closed. I know that's hard to kind of think about when you think about the Sheikh. Exactly, yeah. And I've just been really grateful to work with great people such as the late great Lionheart, Shaw Samuels, Bram. Just so many guys, Dean Omar, James Mason, so many guys that I've just picked up, immense amount of knowledge from, and then being able to do that with PCW, it genuinely was sort of a big honor. Because I remember watching PCW once when I started, and I was like, wow, that's somewhere that I would love to wrestle.
What is it you think that, obviously it's a very successful organisation, what is it you think they do that really makes them stand out? Because they seem to have great connections around the world. They always seem to get top talent from abroad over here, but they always have a great list of British wrestlers that perform there on a regular basis in the training school. So what is it about them that you think really resonates?
I think it's, like I said, it's about sort of making them connections. Again, the promoter, he's done well in terms of building himself a reputation and having established the reputation of the company, where usually the wrestlers abroad are already aware of the organisation, and they will be some of the first places that they want to work in. And it's a great platform to perform on, because now they have the training school, and they've had some great trainers in there. I remember when I started, we had people like Ashton Smith, Tyson T-Bone, and these guys are now NXT UK performers. They work for the WWE, and we've had fantastic sort of seminars with, believe it or not, Billy Gunn, Hardcore Holly, AJ Styles has come through the door. Chris Masters on a regular basis would come through the door, and you just think, wow, I'm learning. And then it wasn't until sort of Dave Taylor came in a few times, and I was like, this is amazing, because when you look at British wrestling, you think of people like Johnny Saint and William Regal, Dave Taylor, the guys who have, Marty Jones is another one who you look at, but that's where sort of an opportunity came up for me, and I was very grateful and very honoured to have a tryout for NXT UK in the back end of last year. So my fingers are crossed that this COVID stuff is over as quick as possible, and then you possibly may see the Sheikh on a wider scale soon. So I mean, that's all I can say about that right now. But
That's amazing. I mean, that's why I was going to quiz you a little bit about, what the goals are and where you sort of want to see yourself. So obviously, you've kind of answered that already, so we won't touch that anymore. You mentioned earlier about your sport background, obviously growing up playing a lot of football. When was your first connection with wrestling? Was it something you grew up with, or was it something you came into a bit later in life?
I grew up with wrestling. I was always a kid in school when the teachers asked, "What do you want to do?" and I'd be like, "I want to be a wrestler," and everybody would laugh. Everybody found it funny. I was a guy who, who'd have all the posters of The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and DX, and all this kind of stuff. Non-uniform day, I'd come in with a DX shirt or an Undertaker shirt, or like, do you know what I mean? And then playing football, getting a little bit sidetracked because they stuck me at centre back because of my height, and I had a mouth on me as well, which kind of helped. But I didn't score many times, but every time I scored, it would be a wrestling celebration. You know what I mean? So I think it was an itch that never went away, Martin, which I always knew that I'm gonna do it one day. I'm definitely gonna do it one day. Got to the age of, so that's a little bit of background really. So I stopped playing football because of an injury. I was offered a coaching contract, and I coached for quite a while studying at university. I studied teaching and business. Got my PGCE, and I thought, what do I do now? So then I went into the gym, did a little bit of fitness modeling, and then this itch kind of just came back. I'm like, wrestling. So I thought, do you know what? Scrap it. Let's just go and see if we can ever go. So I decided to go down, and the first place that I actually went to was Future Shock in Manchester. And I approached a lovely guy, a great wrestler, Dave Rain. Dave Rain coached me on a one-to-one basis for quite some time, and then I was taken over by for 2 weeks. I trained with the Wolves. I don't know if you remember the Wolves from TNA Impact. And then that's it. I was hooked after that. After you take your first few bumps, that's it. You're stuck there. You're kind of addicted to the sort of aches and pains that come after. I know it's weird me saying this, but the whiplash feeling that you feel after you've taken a bump the next day, I don't like. Now I'm really missing it. You know what I mean? So, and that's it. That was my sort of route. And I think I got on shows pretty quickly with PCW. I mean, again, Martin, I was a lot older than a lot of the trainees at the time because I came in quite late. And I think because of being in shape and having the stature and being quite tall, I was noticed a little bit quicker and thought, actually, we want someone. And maybe not maybe, I'd say definitely as well. The ethnicity played a big part, and the character played a big part in it as well. Because on the British wrestling scene, there wasn't many Arab or Middle Eastern millionaires, sheikh gimmicks going around as much. I know people had attempted it, but the first time this gimmick was, it was a mix of Prince Naz, the boxer, Floyd Mayweather, kind of merge together rather than going down a sensitive topic like religion.
Mhm.
So, sorry, I've probably gone on quite a lot there. So,
Brilliant answer. It's really insightful information. You can carry on talking as long as you like on these things, but that's fascinating. Prince Nazim is one of my favorite boxers when I was growing up. So I love the fact that you've touched on that being part of the story,
yeah,
how you built it.
initially, this is where the sort of attire came from as well.
Mm.
I mean, if you kind of have a look at some of the sort of the shorts that I kind of wear, it is taken from Prince Naz and the cockiness and a little bit of the back and forth and things like that, really. So, fingers crossed, we can see a little bit more of that side to it once we're back up and running. Because you're a freelance worker, you need to promote yourself. You're a product, and the promotions are basically where you want to be. The more promotions that you can work for, the more you will get noticed. But then, because there's so many wrestlers now, and there's so many promotions, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to find work easy, because what you'll find is the same wrestlers will be working with all the promotions because they're the ones that are established.
Mm.
But then you have people who have moved on to NXT UK. Now, I know there was a big complaint about this and there was a big uproar at the beginning, like, oh, WWE have come over and they've taken over British wrestling. But I think I saw that as an opportunity, because I thought this has just opened up doors for people like myself and other people who are not contracted. So what you do in that situation is you excel yourself and you increase your promo work, which you then put online. And it even could be working harder in the gym, in the ring with your drills, to make yourself a lot more crisp, especially because of this long time of being away from the ring. Um, you know the people who are going to put the work in and the ones that are going to be waiting till it's, oh yeah, wrestling's back up now, we can get in the ring. And there's a big difference of people like that. And when it comes to wrestling, Martin, I'll be honest with you, I've tracked back all the way to the 80s and I'm going all the way through. There's some great matches that that I recently watched and I thought, this has not been, no one's ever done this, or nobody showcases it. It probably has been done, but people have forgot about it. Just an example, I was watching 1-2-3 Kid versus Bret the Hitman Hart, and some of the stuff in there is amazing. And then you have the old school Iron Man match with Shawn Michaels and Bret the Hitman Hart, and the ladder match with Razor Ramon, and you just think, this is gold, what we're seeing here right now. And I think it's extremely important to keep yourself updated on the newer stuff, as well as going back and looking at the older stuff and seeing if you can make that connection and merge it together, purely because you can target more of an audience rather than just appealing to one specific type.
That's great. I'll obviously touch base a little bit more about storytelling, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I'm really excited, obviously, that NXT UK has restarted up again on BT Sport, and they've been able to film inside the BT Sport studios. I think it's brilliant for British wrestling in general, just to have that big platform. We're lucky to have British wrestlers on in AEW. We've been lucky to have a British wrestler as the main champion in WWE. In terms of, obviously, because the storylines are developing well in NXT UK, how you mentioned earlier a bit about the types of matches that take place throughout Britain. Where do you think we currently are in terms of being able to deliver stories in matches? And obviously, there's an old school British style of wrestling, the likes of Regal, that you identify with. But where are we now, right now, if you think worldwide, how are we viewed as a storytelling nation?
I reckon if I don't like, even with the sort of British rounds coming back, I'm sure you've seen that they brought the British rounds come back in, and I think that's absolutely fantastic. I'll be honest, because there's an aspect now of, like, myself, I grew up during the Attitude Era, so a little bit before and all the way through the Attitude Era, and wow, some of the stories were just fantastic. But then if you have a look, if you have a look at it now, it was heavily storyline based. you didn't really care about the undercard, even though people like, and apologies, I'm showing my age here, but people like Steve Blackman or Taka Michinoku had great undercard matches, but nobody was really bothered because you were, you were too focused on what's the Undertaker, who's the Undertaker going to kidnap now? You know what I mean? And is the corporation going to turn on this person or that person? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Now I think there's such a great balance. The coaches and the staff at NXT doing a fantastic job. And like I said, I'm very grateful to have been able to and still train quite closely with some of the coaches at NXT UK. So the style of wrestling that they're putting in, and then sort of the writers are then matching the storylines to incorporate both. I actually think it's a wonderful sort of balance that they have at the minute. And now by bringing in the British rounds, we get best of both worlds to be able to see more of a storyline develop through longer matches with rounds. And then when you have the standard sort of matches, I mean, like the NXT UK title match the other week. You know what I mean? I don't know if you saw it or not, but even what a match that was, and it was the story it told the story all the way through. It was just amazing. We have some very, very talented wrestlers in the UK, and I think under the sort of banner of NXT UK and other massive promotions, you know, we can just go even further and just bring back a lot of the attention onto British wrestling, and it's so exciting. And again, it's just a shame that we have this little disappearance year, which has caused a little bit of an obstacle.
Yeah, I'm loving your enthusiasm. I love the excitement in your voice when you talk about wrestling. It's great. Obviously, I'll put the links on underneath for all the social media so people can follow you and find out what happens next in your career. Is there anything in particular you want to give a shout out to, or anything any of your media you want to mention right now?
Just basically, yeah, like I said, I'm obviously available on Instagram, which is at Sheikh El Sham, and Twitter as well. Them are the main ones. But yeah, I really appreciate the time you've given me. I was going to tell you a little story about where the name came from, actually, wasn't I?
Yes.
So Sheikh El Sham actually means, the meaning behind it is the Prince of the Night. That's what it actually means. And the Prince of the Night usually comes from a spoiled prince who would go out at night and spend all his father's fortune on lavish stuff and women and fast cars, and he'd purchase exotic animals, and his father would be very unhappy because he was meant to be taken. But another reason why I picked the name was, and this doesn't sound this fantastic at all, actually, but one of my favorite places in Egypt was Sharm el Sheikh, and I thought that's brilliant because I'll just reverse it. So I reversed it around, and that's where the name came from, actually.
That's brilliant. I love that. That's quality. There's a real deep meaning to it, but also something a bit more comical.
Yeah.
Which is great. Very much like your character. It suits you down to a T. Do you ever think you'll turn? Do you ever think you'll turn face, or are you?
I don't. Well, Martin, this is what I was. This is a question that I should ask you. Really, what do you think? Do you see the Sheikh being a face?
Yeah, I think obviously we grew up with the same sort of stuff. Attitude Era, you can always turn. I think when you get popular enough, if you're in with the right person, it's the story though. It depends. I mean, if you're in there with baby faces and you get in the booze, then don't change. But eventually there'll be a crowd, maybe an older audience that enjoy what you do, that like want to root for you and be like, yeah, go on, be mean. So it could be that.
I'll be honest. It throws me off a little bit, that does, because I genuinely am, because I'm so used to. I remember sort of like when I first started coming out, and I'd get instant booze. And this is a little story for you if you still got time. That is
Yeah.
When I started, I was on the same shows as Rampage Brown, Tyson T-Bone, Joey Hayes, Danny Hope, all the big guys, and one of the main heels at the time was Tel Bannum. Tel Bannum was coming up. I don't know if you know tell, but he was coming up as a massive heel, heel. And there was like a toss up at the back saying like, who's generating more heat? Is it the Sheikh or is it Tel Banu? But then somebody pointed out, actually, Sheikh, you're only getting heat because you wear a turban, which, you know, it was a little bit controversial at the time, okay, but I could understand, I could see the point. So this is why, I don't know if you've noticed, but the Sheikh kind of slowly dropped the turban. He wears it occasionally if it's a special match, purely because I wanted to make sure that I was getting heat for actually being a heel and not because of a stereotypical view. And that was one of the sort of defining moments for me when I was like, okay, this is how nasty I need to be, rather than just dressing up as someone and just a generic heat. So
that's really fascinating. It's
yeah.
fascinating to think that the little, you know, you had to think that way because you didn't want to,
Yeah.
you know, you want to make sure your talent's coming across and you're not just getting it from a stereotypical point of view.
Whereas, you know, you're right. I could have carried on. Going down the road. Oh yeah, I'll bet it's easy. It's cheapy. It's easy. But again, it's about yourself wanting to progress more, and you're actually in competition with people on that card. You want to be in that position. You know what I mean? And not many people, you know, are going to be extremely happy if you come in and you're in great shape and you have a character, you have a gimmick, and then all of a sudden, you know, 12 to 14 months down the line, you're getting put in a main event. There is going to be people that are going to be a little bit upset about it, but then you have to prove why you belong there. So that's what it is, really. So
that's nice. Yeah, that's again, it's the enthusiasm and your desire. You've loved wrestling, or you like. I can tell. You know, you can tell you really care about what you're developing, and it means something to you. You're not just doing it for, you know, not just doing it as a hobby. You can tell that's something you're working on. You're seeing everything as a bit of a craft. So that's probably why fans like myself buy into you so easily.
No, and I appreciate that, Martin, because like I said, with the sort of promos as well. My day job, not many people know my day job's a teacher, and a lot of the times I will hit promos on the kids when they've not done their homework, and they're like, "Who is this guy you're recording? Who is the Sheikh, sir?" You know what I mean? But it's where I practice my promos, you know. So
brilliant. Well, that's a great path as well. Obviously, you know, I'm a huge fan of Eddie Dennis, and that's, you know, a path that he has been through and I've heard about, and you know, I'm you know, fascinated to see what the latest storyline his is. So I'm sure, hopefully down the line, you can have the battle between the teachers. That'd be great.
fingers crossed, mate. Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I hope we get to chat again, and I can interview you more about your career, and hopefully, you never know, it might be in person. I might get there.
Yeah. No, thank you, Martin. Thank you for having me. It's honestly an absolute pleasure, and it's really grateful for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
We're grateful for your time. I hope you have stay well. Good luck through the rest of the lockdown, and take care of yourself.
You take care, buddy. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, man. We're in Mania season, and I need your help to create the greatest WrestleMania card of all time. Every week on our social media, we're going to put up polls that you can vote and interact with. These are going to range from the commentary team up to the greatest WrestleMania main event of all time. It's going to be a fun few weeks and hopefully build up to what should be another blast this year's WrestleMania in Tampa. We'd love to hear from you, so please do comment on our YouTube channel below and follow us across our social media platforms. I'll put all the links, but you can find us at TIW Film on Twitter and on Instagram. We will be launching a quiz soon, so please do keep an eye out for that and make sure you get involved. I hope you enjoyed the interview today, and thank you for watching.